Greetings, Andy Johnson here, Minnesota State University. Now, in the past, people who haven't agreed with what I have to say have said I sound like I'm unhinged and ranty. So I will speak in soft tones, won't get anyone too worked up, but I want to talk about things actually in the National Reading Panel Report, and I'm going to do it very calmly and not unhinged. By the way, on April 27th, there is a free webinar, 2023, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, looking at the science of reading. What's the deal with the science of reading? But first, we are going to look at the National Reading Panel Report. This is widely cited by the Science of Reading Club. And the National Reading Panel Report is part of the science of reading. Here's Dr. Timothy Shanahan. He was involved in a big part of the National Reading Panel Report. I don't agree with him on everything, but he has some good insights. There's nobody that I agree with totally, not even myself sometimes. But his view of the science of reading looks at studies that examine instructional research that has been tested in the classroom. It's not the science of reading unless it is a study looking at the effectiveness of a strategy or some program or something within a classroom using controlled experimental research. And on the very cover of the National Reading Panel Report, you see it right there, is this little thing, an evidence-based assessment of the scientific research literature on reading and its implications for reading instruction. So, let us take, and here's on his blog, good stuff. To me, a science of reading, if we are talking about education, requires that our prescriptions for teaching be tempered by rigorous instructional evaluation. If the claim hasn't been tried out and found effective, then the claims, no matter how heartfelt, aren't part of reading science or the science of reading. And that can be found on his blog. So let's look at what it actually says. And in many cases, I have quoted exactly or paraphrased, but you can look it up yourself. It said that systematic phonics instruction is more effective in helping students read single words out of context and pseudo words than unsystematic phonics or non-phonics, meaning that something produces better results than nothing in that something than nothing does. And notice that this isn't actual reading, it's reading single words, and never have I seen a single word floating in space outside the context of a sentence, a label, or a sign of some sort. And pseudo words, that's not actually reading. This only looks at your ability to sound out words. You're not able to use context or word order. It's also important to know the majority of effect sizes involve students reading a single word or non-words out of context. So it is a measure of their ability to sound out a word. And reading is more than sounding out words. Reading is creating meaning with text. Only 24% of the studies involve students reading text. And at the kindergarten and first grade level, that text involved usually a single sentence. Now, this is going to hurt the science of reading, but this is what they actually said. If you're science of reading, you can't be just a little science of reading. So let's see what the National Reading Panel Report said. Phonics instruction failed to produce a significant impact on the reading performance of low-achieving readers in 2nd through 6th grade. And I'm not making it up. This is, from the Reading Panel Report. If you don't believe me, go find it. Go look it up yourself. I'm not lying. I don't get paid for this. The impact of phonics on comprehension is limited. The majority of these studies focused on first grade students, and it asked them to read a single sentence. there's a very high correlation, and that is pretty high, between word recognition and comprehension. In other words, the impact of decoding single words is very strong on comprehension when reading single sentences. So that was with first grade students. So you cannot generalize that phonics helps all students comprehend. And this is what the Science of Reading Club often does. They'll take one study, and instead of looking at exactly what it says, they will generalize to the larger population. Phonics instruction contributed only weakly, if at all, in helping poor readers apply these skills to read actual text. Yes, you can teach word identification skills. You can teach phonics skills here, and you get a little blip in phonics scores. But that blip in those skills, do they transfer over there to actual reading circumstances, situations of actually, meaning, can I apply the phonics you've been spending all your time boring the heck out of me with? Can you apply that? Am I able to apply that when I actually read a book? Imagine that. There were insufficient data to draw any conclusions about the effect of phonics instruction with normally developing readers above grade 1. So, phonics instruction, everyone believes it, should be a part of kindergarten and first grade. But after that, insufficient data. Phonics instruction fails to exert a statistically significant impact on poor readers and 2nd through 6th graders. And what do we often do with struggling readers? We give them more phonics instruction. The effect size on reading single words out of context was greater than the effect on comprehension. And we noted that because you teach how to decode single words out of context, and you're going to score higher on decoding single words out of context. The majority of effect sizes involved reading single words out of context. Only 24% involved actual reading of text. And we don't know if that text was a single line, a paragraph, a real book. It just doesn't tell us. Oh, this is going to hurt. Balanced literacy instruction. Yep, it said something about, let's see what the National Reading Panel report said. And I'm pulling this almost word for word. Programs that focus too much on the teaching of letter-sound relations, and not enough on putting them to use are unlikely to be very effective. Students need to apply their skills in daily reading and writing activities. That sounds very much that sounds very much like a balanced approach to literacy. Oh my goodness. Systematic phonics instruction should be integrated with other reading instruction to create a balanced reading program. Now, I didn't use that word. Balanced reading program was actually found in the NRP report. The reading of quality literature should be included in a reading program. Reading good books. Imagine that. That sounds very much like balanced reading instruction. Phonics should not become the dominant component of a reading program. That was said many times here. It's important to evaluate children's reading competence in many ways, including their interest in books. Yes, help children fall in love with books, and their ability to not sound out words, not stretch words into parts, but to understand information. Phonics are programs that focus too much on phonics with little time spent practicing reading real good books are likely to be ineffective. So all that phonics instruction that all of you have thought are just so very important, well, everyone agrees phonics is important. It's not the what, it's the how you teach it and the how much you teach it. And one size does not fit all. This is quoted exactly here. Systematic phonics instruction should be integrated with other reading instruction to create a balanced reading program. Phonics should not become the dominant component in a reading program, neither in the amount of time devoted to it, nor the significance attached. Balanced reading program. I know that's going to make some people's head explode. It is very likely that phonics programs that emphasize decoding exclusively and ignore the other processes involved in learning to read will not succeed in making every child a skilled reader. And is that not what we're looking for? Equity, justice, all children developing their full potential, their full literacy potential. I think that's what we want, but I could be unhinged, as they say. I could be ranting, as they say. Yeah, I'm ranting. Oh, this is interesting. Most people, when they think of the science of reading, they think of synthetic phonics. Synthetic phonics is what most of us think. We attach sounds to letters, and we put the letters together, synthesis, to create words. Most people think that's how you teach phonics. But that's not what the National Reading Panel report says. There are several ways. Synthetic phonics, yep. Analytic phonics, pulling words apart. What's the last sound you hear in? What makes the embedded phonics, embedded within the context of real books. Analogy phonics, sometimes called large unit phonics. Do you see a part of this word you recognize? Do you teach students to look for letter patterns? Onset rhyme, that's word building. And phonics through spelling. Now, which is most effective? All approaches are equally effective. And if I were a teacher, and I was at one time, I guess I still am, I would include all of these to make sure that I'm reaching all students. Some may do better with synthetic than analytic, but I would include all of them. Now, the majority of studies, limited selection results equals limited generalization, and that's a word error there. I make a lot of those. I've got my right eye is not functioning just the way it should. The majority of studies involve children in kindergarten and first grade. The majority of studies involve kindergarten and first grade. That means that most of the studies involve children in kindergarten and first grade. Kindergarten and first grade, where everyone agrees that phonics instruction should be a very important part. Only 23% of the studies involve students in 2nd through 6th grade. We cannot take a study and look at the results involved in kindergarten and first grade and make a generalization to all human beings in all grades. We have to look at the studies and see exactly who was involved, what questions they're asking, what were the measures, and what were the results. Many of the studies were conducted with beginning readers whose reading development was too limited to assess the actual reading of text. Kindergarten and first graders, yes, they can read single words, but how do you assess their ability to read actual text when they are only at the word reading stage? And the majority of comparisons in the older group involved either low achieving or disabled readers. There again, I made another mistake. I guess I could go record this again, but I've got so much to do today. 2 interesting tidbits that they actually said. Phonics instruction has become entangled with politics. Yes, it has. In ideology. Belief system based on ideas and values and not science. And I found this very interesting. There are 4 ways that students can recognize words while reading. Recognize means you're reading along, you see the word, and you know it instantly. Decoding, yes. Sight word, yes. Analogy, look for parts that make sense. And prediction, that is the semantic cueing system. What word makes sense? And these they cited these 2 studies here. So, conclusions. If you want to be a legitimate science of reading club, you can't cherry pick your science. If you're willfully excluding some data and some research, that's not science. True science looks at a wide variety of research. Reading is not just sounding out words. Sounding out word instruction is limited in the impact that it has. You must actually read and analyze the reports or the research or the studies. And here's the thing in science. Science doesn't prove anything. Science either supports or doesn't a hypothesis. All these research studies go to create theories. And a balanced approach to teaching reading is effective. Now, I hope you will join me on April 27th, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. I'm doing a webinar, What's the Deal with the Science of Reading? And I'll allow plenty of time for discussions, for questions. You can call me names, whatever you want to do, but I would encourage you to join me. This is a free webinar. I don't get paid for this.